Well, hello. It is Dr. Gary Huber on a Sunday, thus the apparel, a simple t-shirt. This is a really cool little experiment I've been doing this weekend. I couldn't wait to get this. I already made this PowerPoint and then I lost it. I had to recreate it a second time, but I did it because I'm so excited. This is really cool stuff. I want to talk about ketogenic diet, and to all my friends out there, Andrew and John and Nancy and others who have struggled with the ketogenic diet, I want to share my little experiment this weekend with you. I think you'll find it interesting. The GKI, glucose ketone index, if you have never heard of that, we're going to start using that as a tool. I think it's another layer of intensity, or accuracy is probably a better word. It's a simple math equation, but the same device that we use to measure our ketones, right, the ketonics device, this little guy will measure glucose as well. You have to get different strips. The strips are a lot cheaper than the ketone strips. So you measure your glucose, you divide that number by 18, whatever that number is, you divide by your ketone measure, and your goal is to get your GKI below 6. Now I'm going to share with you my weekend adventure, and you'll see that it's chaotic and all over the place. Goals in general, if your glucose is less than 90 and ketones are above 1, you're going to have a GKI less than 6. Now, some of you would say, well, I can hardly get my ketones that high. That's what we're going to talk about. Let me give you an example. If your glucose was 95, divide that by 18, that's 5.3. Now divide that by a ketone measure of, say, 0.8, you can see your GKI is 6.6. So where this is helpful is you can produce ketones. Even if you're diabetic, if you fasted and you exercise, you could probably reduce ketones. But if your glucose is too high, then your GKI is not going to be great. So this is a way of a little more acuity in terms of tracking our progress. And this is what I'm doing currently. I want to see my GKI. It'll bounce up and down, but I want to consistently see numbers below 6 throughout the week. Okay, it doesn't matter if you have one bad reading. I'm going to show you a dozen bad readings on myself. So this is what I did this weekend. I'll walk you through my weekend. Wish you were there. Friday at 4:30, I went for a bike ride of 31 miles. It was awesome, hot as hell, but awesome. And I came home in about a half an hour after my bike ride. Now, normally I would wait longer, but it was 30 minutes because we're getting ready to go out with friends, and I had to get moving. I checked my glucose, it was 93. My ketones were 1.1 for a GKI of 4.7. Not bad, but I just biked 31 miles. Went out. Yes, I had some mashed potatoes. Yes, there may have been a bourbon involved, and had a lovely time. And the next morning I get up, and early in the morning, fasting, my glucose was 94. My ketones were 0.4, not bad for going out and having mashed potatoes and bourbon. But my GKI was 13. I simply waited that I had some fat in my coffee. I had some nuts. I had a fat bomb. And by noon Saturday, my glucose was still hovering at 89. My ketones were still at 0.4. So my GKI was 12. It'd come down a little bit, but not much, right? Then I went out and I biked for 21 miles in very hot weather. And I normally, if I'm going for a decent bike ride, I will put exogenous ketones in my water bottle. I'm going to talk about this product. This is by Douglas, okay? And we'll talk more about it. But I put that because if I'm exercising, I'm going to need those extra ketones to provide energy because I'm going through them at a great rate, right? So I did that. I came home, my glucose was 99. My ketones are 2.0, my GKI is 275, and that was taken about an hour after my bike ride. So I would expect coming off the bike that you're gonna be burning calories like crazy. If you've ever checked your ketones after exercising, they're almost always low right after you exercise because your muscles are still sucking the ketones out of your bloodstream and they're using them. But after you've had 2 or 3 hours to recover from any exercise, or if the exercise was pretty tame, then you should see the ketones rising pretty aggressively. This is only an hour after the bike, so they probably went up after this. But you can see the impact. My GKI is way down to 275. Now, why is my glucose at 99? Well, glucose goes up and down. The body will go to great measures to keep glucose in a healthy range. And when you stress yourself and you're in a ketogenic state, the body will break down some muscle to make glucose if it needs it. All right. So that was Saturday. That kind of makes sense. But now let's walk into Sunday. Sunday was Mr. Toad's wild ride. So I got up at 5. You're saying, why are you up at 5 o'clock on a Sunday? Normally I'm not, but I just couldn't sleep. My brain was busy. Unusual. But anyway, got up at 5 a.m. I checked my ketones. I'd had a cup of black coffee, but that's it. I'd eaten well Saturday, stayed on track. The only thing I did is ate a fair amount of nuts right before bed. But other than that, my diet was spot on for keto. My glucose was 91. My ketones are 0.3. Disappointing, right? I'd had a good day. I'd biked. I had stayed on track. GKI is 16.8. I waited an hour, and now I've added fat to my system. And I have noticed that I go into ketosis easily if I add fat to my body. My body's very adept at burning fat as fuel. So after having been up for about an hour and a half and having had fat in my body for an hour, I recheck my numbers, and you can see there hardly any change. So giving myself fat, I wanted to see would my body begin to generate ketones, and it really hadn't. Glucose is 92. Ketones are 0.3. Do the math, divide by 18, blah, blah, blah. GKI is 17. All right. Here's where the fun starts. At 6:30, when I took that reading, I decided to try my Douglas ketones in that setting. I'd been reading a lot of literature about the use of exogenous ketones. And I'll talk about where they might have a place for you depending on whether you're trying to lose weight or not. But I took 10 grams of ketones, and an hour later I tested myself. My glucose had plummeted down to 67, and my ketones were up to 0.7. Now I hadn't done anything but sat on my butt. My GKI was now 5.3. It dropped from 17 to 5.3, and the only thing I had done is swallowed ketones. Now in the past I would have said, oh, well, that's cheating. You're just putting ketones in your body. But if it lowers glucose and insulin, which it can, and if it helps cut back appetite, which it can, then maybe this is a tool. Okay, we'll talk more about if you're trying to lose weight, is it the ideal tool? Maybe not. So I had the ketones. You saw a big shift. We saw glucose go down and ketones go up. 8:30, 2 hours later, after eating the ketones, Douglas ketones, I'd had some coffee, but I still hadn't had any food. And notice what's happening. Glucose has bounced up a little bit. Look at my ketones. They're still rising. They're now at 1.1, and my GKI has dropped to 4.4. At 11 o'clock, that was right after I'd done a workout. So went and did a 45-minute workout, pretty aggressive. On a scale of 1 to 10, it was a solid 7, maybe an 8. And then I got 20 minutes in the sauna. And in fact, I was still sweating when I took this next reading. I just came out of the sauna. I'm sweating. I just exercised. My glucose skyrocketed to 120. Surprised by that. And ketones are down to 0.3. Now, I know you, Andrew, are saying, well, the ketones are 0.3. And I had done nothing outside of a ketogenic diet, but this is right after exercise. Like I said, right after you have challenged the body with exercise, it's going to be sucking ketones out of the blood. I'm not bothered by the fact they're down to 0.3. And that's an important part of this tale. I want you to guys recognize, look at my ketones. They're going up and down like a yo-yo based on what I'm doing. Everything from 0.3 to 1.1. And all I did from this point forward is I waited 2 hours, and what happened to my ketones? They skyrocketed, 1.7. That's normal. Glucose is coming down, ketones are going up. And it wasn't that I wasn't able to make ketones. I was making ketones the whole time. You just didn't see them in the blood because the muscles were absorbing and utilizing them. My GKI comes back down to 3.3. So a couple of things. Understand that your blood sugar and your ketones are going up and down on a daily basis. Now look how many times I pricked my finger today, at least 6 times, right? But it was part of I wanted to see the moving dial. So if you're checking your ketones once a day or once a week, and you just happen to catch yourself at an odd time, that doesn't mean your body's not producing ketones, and it doesn't mean you're not in ketosis, all right? If you just did it after exercise, which I wouldn't recommend, wait some time. All right. You have to understand too that your body has at least 4 different ways to make glucose. It can do gluconeogenesis, where it actually strips your muscle. If you fast for 2 days or 3 days and your body's in starvation mode, believe me, it's going to start stripping down muscle to make glucose to feed the brain. That's what it's going to do. It's going to make ketones out of fat, yes, but it's also going to make glucose that way. Even if you're in ketosis, when you take beta hydroxybutyrate, which is the ketone, and you convert it into energy, glycine is one of the byproducts, and the body can take glycine and glycerol and put it down the Cori cycle to actually make sugar out of that. Your kidneys can make blood sugar, your liver can make blood sugar, or can make sugar for the bloodstream. So you have a lot of different mechanisms. Your body is going to keep that sugar within a certain range, and it's going to go up and down based on the amount of stress that it feels. So balancing your nutrition and your energy is definitely a moving target. All right. Now, what I found interesting about this is the first time I'd ever done ketones without exercising and measured them. It was amazing what it did. Is there a benefit to taking exogenous ketones? Well, studies have shown that when we take exogenous just means you're taking ketones, you're not making them. You make endogenous ketones. These are exogenous ketones. They're coming out of a jar, they're not coming out of your fat stores. But they do have an increase or an impact rather on appetite. They can definitely reduce appetite. If somebody's trying to fast and they take this in, are they still fasting? No, not really, because this is caloric. But if it helps them to get through the fast, there might be a tool there. If somebody's trying to lose weight, we want you to burn your fat and make your own ketones. That's the benefit. But if you're having trouble controlling appetite, could this be a tool to help you control appetite, to help you stay on track so you can lose weight? It could be. We know that ketones reduce inflammation. Carbs make inflammation. Ketones do the opposite. We know that they boost workout performance. I take them when I go on the bike because I need that extra fuel. My body can't make ketones as fast as I would like it to. You don't ever run out of energy, but it helps add extra energy. Ketones are neuroprotective. I don't do a ketogenic diet to lose weight. I don't want to lose weight. I don't need to lose weight. I do a ketogenic diet to protect my being, all right, my brain. So ketones are neuroprotective. They're an awesome energy for your brain, and they enhance cognition. Now, does swallowing a gallon of this make your brain work better? Marginally, maybe. The real benefit of a ketogenic diet is over time, as you reduce inflammation, your brain cells become more adapted at using ketones as fuel, and it does help with cognition. I think the challenge that I'm stumbling over is I don't want to present the idea that just swallowing glasses of ketones exogenally is going to give you all the benefits of a ketogenic diet. It's not. I don't believe that it will. But can it be a tool that we can use? Yeah, I think maybe. Longevity and epigenetics, that's where ketones, I'm doing a ketogenic diet for that reason alone. I want to live longer, and it alters my genes. It makes my genes behave in a younger fashion. So the question is, if you're trying to lose weight, exogenous ketones may or may not be your best tool, because realistically, you want your body to burn your fat to make ketones. You don't want to just swallow them. But could exogenous ketones be a great tool to control appetite, or to help fuel your workouts, or to help with yes, to all those, right? It can be a really great tool. These are products. So I'm going to talk about MCT oil on another talk coming up soon, but because the question with MCT is what type and what amount, and do you take powder or liquid? When we talk about keto metabolics, this is the product from Douglas that I've got on the screen here. That's just beta hydroxybutyrate. That is a ketone. That's your body takes medium chain triglyceride oils or medium chain MCT oils and can make ketones out of that. So the other product you see there, the C8 Max, is MCT powder. Now, I like MCT oil. We have it in the office. I use it on almost a daily basis. But we'll talk next time about maybe there's some people who would prefer a powder. I think there's room for these kind of products in your arsenal, but I want to make sure you're using them in the right way, that you're getting the most out of it. And I don't want to present the illusion that just swallowing these things is magically going to make you Superman or make you lose weight. But they are cool. They do kind of work. I hope this was helpful. Don't get frustrated. Enjoy the ride. If you're trying to do a ketogenic diet, remember the 3 levers. You can exercise, you can reduce your carbs. What's the third? I've forgotten the third. You can reduce your carbs. You can fast. Okay. So those are the things that really make a difference. Anyhow, I'm going to bug out of here. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. Until then, I'm going to be doing the next video on MCT oil probably later this week. Take care. Bye now.